I'm Jane Applegath. Welcome to the Epic Vision Zone, where bold ideas meet extraordinary leaders. What if you spent years trying to change your life while living inside an environment that quietly reinforces the person you are trying to leave behind? And what if I told you that when your environment doesn't match your future, your nervous system will keep negotiating with your past? Today's guest believes your home is far more than four walls. It's a living extension of your energy, your ambitions, and your future. Lisa Morton is an internationally recognized interior designer, feng shui master teacher, energy practitioner, and creator of the Intuitive Home Method, a month-long transformational experience for lasting change. Her approach blends design principles, feng shui space clearing, and intuitive energy work to create homes that actively support well being, nurture the spirit, restore energy, and align with a life of possibilities. She has transformed residences, businesses, and even luxury private aircraft carriers around the world. A Midwest farm girl at heart, Lisa learned early that nature thrives through rhythm, balance, and flow. She brings that same wisdom into every space, uniting practical design with energetic intelligence. She is the host of the Feng Shui Living podcast, author of Aligned at Home. Her credentials include a certified master teacher of interior alignment, Feng Shui, Reiki master, yoga instructor, and much more. Making your home your greatest source of inspiration, healing, and personal power is at the heart of Lisa's work. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're excited to get started, and Lisa has just launched her new book, so we want to get into the tools that help us with our life within our environment, which we both had a discussion earlier and said how important it is to know this. So just give us an idea, Lisa, what inspired you to do the work that you do today?
Oh my goodness. It was through my own experience, really. I went to interior design school and did traditional design for many years, including about 7 years designing private jet interiors.
Hmm.
I thought I had my dream job. Um, as you said, I was a Midwest farm girl, and this opportunity allowed me to travel the world. I met with outrageous people. I used materials that were just fantastic, just so luxurious. And the job was really wonderful until it wasn't. I hit a
Mm.
point of burnout. I joke I was on call for 7 years, and it was great. But then it hit me, and overcome with stress and anxiety, and just I was at work sneaking into the design supply closet having panic attacks.
Mm.
So I found myself in a really difficult spot. I knew I had to leave that job, but I saw it almost as a rebirth to really explore who I am, what's important to me. And then I started going down the road of exploring this approach to interior spaces, and it's transformed my life. And now I get to help so many people do this and help them navigate difficult moments in their life through creating an environment that supports them.
Mm. That's a wonderful story. And I had no idea that the interiors of luxury jets, which makes sense, but that they would have design individuals that go
Mm.
in there. And of course, money sounds like it was no object, but it's interesting that you said you dealt with the most luxurious fabrics, and most likely you had a budget that was to the sky or to the moon and back, but it didn't have any positive energy to it. And that's so
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I
Well,
spent a lot of time exploring these tubes. It was a metal tube, and I wanted to try to figure out how could I make this person arrive at their destination and feel better, right? Not just
mm,
sleep on the plane, not just do some work, but actually feel better when they landed to make important decisions, to take on important roles in their work. And so I always had kind of toyed with this idea of what else can I do, but I just didn't know how to get there at the time.
Right. And you were probably pressured too, time pressured.
Mm.
So it was like no time to make space to be creative, just do
Mm.
the job,
Mm.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we need space to create. And, but how interesting. Wow. Well, there's a whole nother avenue you could explore and just charge whatever you want. But anyway,
Right.
that's fascinating because now you have this. Well, let's go on before I get carried away here, because that's the way my mind goes. Holistic design suggests that our outer world reflects our inner world. So, how does your physically cluttered room impact our bodies and nervous system?
Mm. I would say that a cluttered room, even though we don't see the things in our space, it's constantly pinging us. It's like our phone,
Mm,
constantly dinging, constantly notifying us. And that is what a cluttered room does. When we have unmade decisions all around our space, it's constantly pinging us, whether we realize it or not. I mean, we might zone out. We might not even recognize that box that's been sitting there for a year and a half in the corner, we might not even visually really see it, but it's still there. It's still affecting us.
mm. Yes, it's a distraction. I mean, it's a distraction to your flow or your energy force because you're right. I often have things that I'll get come in the house and I have to do something with it. So I'll put it down on the table and I'll get to that. And then the next day I see it there and I'm like, that thing is still there. And then I see it the next day and I'm like, and that's pinging me. You're right. It is. And
Right.
it happens to all of us, even though we can block it out sometimes. But until you finally like, okay, I'm for me, it's like, okay, I'm done. I have to put it away because it's really
Mhm.
bugging the heck out of me. And it's true. It's even like when you have a little chip on your dishes, and
Mm.
you have something and it just bothers you, but you don't want to throw it away because it has some memory or whatever. But maybe just put it at the bottom and but it's those pinging. I love that idea of it's
Mhm.
pinging you and it's interrupting your flow. Yes, it's
It is, and
interrupting
it,
your
it brings so many emotions:
yeah.
depression, anxiety, overwhelm. So when we can remove those emotions from our life and bring in joy, right? And make when we
Mm,
remove those, it makes space for more. Well, what do we want to bring in? Peace,
right.
joy, laughter,
Ex- exactly.
serenity.
Yes, oh yeah, absolutely. Making the space for that. So that being said, how can we use the five elements, that's wood, fire, earth, and metal and water, to balance a room that feels off or stagnant even?
Mhm. So I always like to encourage my clients, my podcast listeners, anyone to just think about exploring your home with a different set of lenses. We are so
Mhm.
used to seeing everything, right? And when we can explore it, instead of thinking, oh, I have a blue sofa in the corner, right? You have a low, soft, low rectangular sofa that's going to be a little more earth element, and it's blue. So it brings in a water element, right? So it's not just a
Mm,
blue boxy sofa. Um, and you look at your dining table, instead of a rectangular wood table, well, that's a wonderful example of a wood element. So look around your
mm,
space just a bit differently. And I always recommend to, well, we want to bring in all the five elements, but here's the key. The key is bringing those elements to align with the activity happening in the space.
mm,
So a spa, we know, feels very calm, very peaceful, very serene. And you go to a casino, it's going to be loud and active and wild. However, if we swapped out the elements a bit and say you went to a casino and you brought the energy down and brought in more earth element, say you painted the walls beige, it would not have that exciting fun effect. And the same with the spa. If you walked into a spa with cherry red walls, you're not going to find the peace and the serenity that you're looking for. So it's really designing a space, not only bringing in the 5 elements, but to truly create them in an essence that supports what kind of energy you want in the space. Active, kind of calm, somewhere in between.
That's a great comparison, Lisa. Yeah, because you're absolutely right. They're total opposites. And you walk into a spa and you instantly feel calm, even if you're just at the reception desk, because they not only have the tones, but they have the music, they have the lighting, which I know we're going to get into. They have the scent, because they usually have some sort of a diffuser going. And so, and then yes, you walk into a casino and it's like boof, it just hits you. It's like that
Right,
kind
you know
of
where you're
energy.
at.
Right. It's like, I'm always like, get me out of here. It's too noisy. I'll take a spa over a casino any day. But whatever. But thank you. That's a great comparison. And like you said, bring the energy into what your room portrays, or what you're trying to achieve there. Well, in your book then, Aligned at Home, you talk about the home being a battery rather than a drain. I love that analogy as well. What's the biggest mistake that people make when trying to organize their space?
Now, I understand how exciting it can be to go to the Container Store or go to Target and look at all the bins and baskets and all the fun ways to organize. But I see that as a later thing to do, right? First, focus on just what you have. What can you get rid of? What do you need to release from your life that's not supporting you, right? Feng Shui, so oftentimes you'll hear people talk in terms of good or bad feng shui, but I really like to think of it on a sliding scale, because everything that we're doing, everything that we bring into our home, it's either improving the energy or not improving the energy, right? From a bag of fresh vegetables and healthy fruits that you're bringing into your space versus bringing in some grocery sacks filled with potato chips, right? Everything you bring in, from the food to your bedding to your even personal care products, affect the energy of your space. So really think of it on that sliding scale. And when you're releasing things, you're letting things go from your life that you no longer use, that no longer bring you joy, then you have space to bring in more things that juice up your life. That's one thing my teacher always says, juice up her life, and just bring you more joy and send you in the direction you want to go. It's very important.
I love that. Send you in the direction that you want to go. That is so vital, because we hang on to
our
things.
homes,
Go ahead.
our homes they're constantly telling us who we are, right? They're mirrors. They're always reflecting who we are, what's important, what we value, but then they're also telling us who to be tomorrow. I think that's so important, right? Who to be tomorrow, what's important, where we're moving towards, right?
Yes. No, absolutely. Because often we hang on to the things that take us backwards. Like in the introduction, I mentioned that it's reminding us of the past, but we're wanting to move forward into our future. And so those are the things that are holding us back. So yes, I can see that wholeheartely. Well, if you had, and this is interesting because you've been on both sides of this compass here with the design aspect and now the feng shui or the alignment. If you had to summarize it, what is the difference that you see between a house that is well decorated, or in your case, maybe a plane, a luxury plane, and a home that is aligned?
It's the feeling. You can feel it. We've all walked into homes or even a commercial space, and you walk in and you can feel that sensation. and you maybe can't even put your finger on what it is, or maybe it's a fabric, maybe it's imagery, but you have a sensation. And I've worked on beautiful homes, I've worked on beautiful planes. I've seen some beautiful spaces, and sometimes they fall flat, and it's because of the
Mm.
energy, right? It's because, yeah, I just actually worked with a woman who she had actually hired, she lives on the East Coast, had hired a beautiful designer to do a beautiful job and amazing stuff. She had invested quite a bit of money in this project, and within about 10 minutes on a Zoom call, I could see the stress on her face. I could understand how her body was feeling. And
Mm.
it was just kind of blaring to me that this space, while it was incredibly beautiful, wasn't supporting her in what she needed. Like, that's so important. What you're needing in your life right now.
Right. Wow. That's a very, very astute observation, because you're right. A space can look absolutely beautiful and have everything top of the line, whatever it is, but it's not supporting where you are in your life right now. And that's why you walk in and, like you said, it feels empty, even though it's beautiful. In fact, I see it often if you go into a model home and they've beautifully
Mhm.
decorated it, but it's like, I don't like it. It's just doesn't, it's
Yeah.
not me. That's what I'll say, which
Yeah.
is interesting. It's not who I
There's
am.
no life.
Yeah.
It's missing the essence of life in there, and you can just feel that, and either you
Yeah.
connect or you don't. And um yeah, it's quite interesting going in those model homes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, they have to be very sterile, I guess, because they have to appeal to a huge demographic. You never know who's going to come
Mhm.
through, right?
Mhm. But it's
But,
also
well, that's,
interesting too if you're looking at real estate, right? If you are looking to sell
mm,
your home, I work with
true.
clients looking to sell their home, and we have to create an energy for the potential buyer, right? Real estate agents want to create a space that will aesthetically appeal to the most buyers, but we want to create also an energy, right? If maybe it's an apartment and you have children and there are toys all over and bright colors, that's not going to appeal to someone else
Mm,
who would probably be the typical apartment person or condo person, right? You need to think about who is going to want to buy the house. And of course, aesthetically, what would they like? But then also think of the energy. Is it going to be, do they want something that's higher energy or lower energy? So think about
right.
age, maybe what their interests might be.
Yeah, that's a good point. Boy, every realtor needs you for sure. It's true. Mind you, it might be a very expensive makeover, but maybe not. But certainly that makes a
You know
huge
what?
difference.
I always say shop your home. I tell my clients we do not have to do any remodels, we don't have to do any big projects. Shop your home, because a lot of the things I will tell clients, hey, we need an item to bring in a water element. So maybe some blue or
Mm,
some black. And go, before you invest, let's experiment with it. So maybe go look in a closet. Do you have an extra throw
mm,
pillow or an extra guest room that might have an extra blue pillow? And shop your home before you invest. I mean, of course, buying beautiful new things is always fun, but we don't need to do that. That's another reason I love this work, because you can make big
right.
shifts. I work with people who are um, going through wonderful things, going through starting a new family, starting a dream business, doing wonderful things. I also work a lot with people who are going through a divorce. They've
Mm,
lost a family member. They're dealing with illness. That's very common. And if you're incredibly ill, you don't want to go out shopping, but you need your space to support you. So just shop your home.
mm. That's a great saying. Shop your home. Yeah, it's a great saying. But in North America, people love to shop for their home.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
needless to say, you're absolutely right. Shop your home. If whatever you have around is probably going to support what you need. Well, you say that alignment in a home isn't a one and done event, but that it's a practice. So, how do you help clients achieve that? Because our lives
Mhm.
change.
Right, exactly. Our lives are continually evolving and shifting. I mean, from year to year to even through the months. So think about, your home isn't meant to stay the same. You design it one year and 20 years later, it's the exact same. It is meant to shift and flow with whatever you need. We go through times of maybe higher stress or maybe lower stress, or we might go through periods of dealing with an illness or dealing with something going on in your life. And so when we can see what's happening, I love to recommend journaling. I'm a big journaler. I love to recommend my clients to journal and write because it's so important to take what's in our head and put it on paper. And when you can see some of those things going on in your life as you're journaling, you can then realize, okay, I am dealing with a lot right now. I need to bring in more grounding, more stable, comforting elements into my space. So when we can do that and design and create a space that supports us during that time, and then we get to a different stage and life might change. But I also say through the seasons too, right? It's important to live along in alignment with the seasons and the cycle of nature. That's so during the winter months, you might have more cozy blankets and your cups out for tea and snuggling on the sofa with some cozy pillows. But then in the summer months, right, we are more excited. We go to the exciting parties and pool parties and get outside and go to barbecues, and it's just a different essence. So it's important to think about what's going on in your life and what type of season you're in, and actual season, but then season of your life, and to design following that. That can be so much more valuable than making it look photo shoot ready for a
Mm,
magazine or anything.
right. Not lived in, basically, because that's photo shoot
Yes.
ready, right?
Right.
It's like, well, it looks great, but it doesn't have any vibe to it. It's just like there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. That's interesting with the seasons. Yeah, I could see that because when it's chilly out, it looks so welcoming to have a throw blanket,
Mhm.
on your sofa
Mhm.
and some nice comfy pillows or whatever the case might be.
Sure.
Yeah, if
And
you have
and
a
naturally
fireplace.
we need to go within, right? We need that quiet time because if we were always high energy like the season of summer, we just would be burned out instantly, right? We need those higher energy times of year and then those more quieter times. And when we can live in harmony with that and realize
Mm,
I'm not a huge fan of winter months personally. I struggle with the winter blahs, but
yeah.
when I remember that this is important. This reminds me that I can slow down a little bit. I can reel it in and take a day off once in a while. Then during the higher energy months, I could just go for it, and I know that will be coming and that higher energy is coming forward. So,
Mm. Yes, absolutely. I love that. Well, here's something that I know most feng shui masters talk about: the front door. Name three
yeah.
simple things that someone can do to their entryway today to invite better opportunities into their life.
Oh my gosh. Well, please use it. Please use it. So often we use the garage. I literally had a client once who had a big cabinet directly in front of the door. She had an older home. Everyone used the side door, and and they would just come in and out of the side door, and she was so blocked in so many areas of her life. In fact, she had a book that she was trying to publish, and I'm like, it's not going to happen unless we move this chest. And I understand it fit there. It worked well in this historic home. It was a little awkward of a space, so it worked, but we had to move it. Get that door opening and closing, number one. Number two is um, refresh your mat, your doormat. It can be an
Mm-hmm.
easy, inexpensive, refresh it. Add something that has a little color or a little life. And then something else that I run into often, I actually ran into a lot when I used to do a lot of, I did a bunch of residential design, and I would go to people's homes, and if you can't find the front door because of all kinds of vegetation growing over,
Mm.
and you can't see the door numbers, we really need to open it up, keep it tidy, keep it clean. I know people use the garage, they use side doors, but really love on your front door. That's what I would say, just love on it. Whatever you can do to make it look brighter and beautiful and welcoming, that's what we want to do.
Yes, absolutely. And you're right. It is well, I'm in the Southwest as well. And so you're right. We all go in through the garage. We all go into, I
Mhm.
mean, I do have a door and I have plants outside. So it's a nice welcoming entranceway. It's not blocked,
Mhm.
but we very rarely use it, if we have deliveries or whatnot, and we do keep it open when the temperature permits. Because as
Okay.
Lisa and I were talking earlier, we're 100 plus right now in Arizona, so it gets a little hot and a lot of air conditioning if we have the front door open. But during the cooler months now,
Well,
we make a habit of opening the door.
I love that. But I also have tricks. I tell my clients, come up with a system. So you might walk your dog every day in and out of the front
Mhm.
door versus going out the side door. So put the leashes at the front door, in a coat closet by the front door. Or maybe you take your morning walk every day and plan this to come and go through the front door. Put your sneakers in the front coat closet. So it's right there, and when you get in this routine, it just makes it easier. It isn't like a thing of, "Oh, I have to use the front door. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go?"
Right. Yes. No, absolutely. You can change up things, and that's the perfect
Mhm.
solution right there. Well, what are some of the top energy killers that we often keep in our bedrooms that prevent us from walking or waking up refreshed? I would love to hear this.
Mm. Some people won't like me, but if I had a dollar for every time I walked in and saw a Peloton next to the bed,
Oh.
I completely understand some people are tight for space, and we have to get
Mhm.
creative sometimes with space. I even work with people on tiny homes. I have a couple clients that are living and traveling in their RVs, and we've worked together. So you have to get very creative on snug spaces. But if at all possible, we want to keep exercise equipment out of the bedroom. I talked earlier about creating a space for the energy you want for the purpose of that room.
Mm.
So the purpose of the bedroom is sleep. That's
Mhm.
rest, that's calm, that's subdued colors, that's a sense of ease and rest, right? It's not that feeling when you're on your exercise bike and they're telling you on the screen to pedal faster and you have sweat dripping down your face and you just can't go any faster, right? That's a different feeling and they don't blend. So I always
Mm.
recommend, removing any workout equipment uh, out of and move it to another space. It's not supporting your rest. Maybe some light stretching in the bedroom or some just anything really gentle, but nothing where you're really raising your heart rate.
Mm.
The other thing
Oh.
I see in bedrooms a lot is stuff, storage under the bed.
Mm. Yep.
So I know it's like, well, this is a fantastic place to shove things, but it's preventing you from sleeping. So if you think about sleeping, 6 to 8 hours, you're laying on top of the surface and whatever's underneath it. So I had a client who had called me as she was struggling with sleep. And I go and we're looking around her bedroom and I asked, okay, do you mind if I look under the bed? And she's like, no, there's just some storage under there. Okay. Well, we pulled a few things out and talked about what was under. She had two main things. One was stacks of books that she wanted to read, and the
Mm.
other pile was it was a container filled with loose photographs that she wanted to put in albums. So she was
Mm.
sleeping on top of a to-do list.
Yeah.
So if you think about the meaning of what might be under your bed, are there items to do, or maybe that pair of jeans that you keep hanging on to thinking you're going to fit into someday, right? Those, as we talked at the very beginning, they're pinging us even while we're
Mm,
asleep. So
yeah.
remove everything from under your bed. Clear it out. Don't have anything under there. It's not the place for storage.
Wow. Okay. I never would have thought of that. But that's a
It can be really
great.
impactful.
Yes, absolutely. What about the nightstand? Is there anything we should not
Hmm.
have on that?
Not all the clutter. If you can keep it as tidy and as clean as possible, only have the necessities there. And I also recommend keeping electronics far away from your body. I say no more, I mean, especially at nighttime. I recommend if you use your phone as your alarm, place it in the next room. Place it in the bathroom, maybe on the counter. And I know some clients are, well, what if my kids call me at night? Turn the ringer up. Turn the ringer up and you will hear it just right in the next room. It's easy to do, and plus it helps you get out of bed a little faster when the alarm is in the next room. But we want to keep those electronic things away from our bodies while we're sleeping. So again, your phone, any electronic items, I say no closer than 3 feet from your head or your body.
Right.
Can really
Yeah.
impact our sleep.
Oh, absolutely. Because they give off energy, and
Hmm.
they're I
Yeah, the
absolutely agree with
electromagnetic
that.
frequencies. Yeah.
Yes,
And
exactly.
and I always say
For
anything I'm suggesting, I say give it 6 weeks. And I say if you don't like it and you want to bring your phone back into bed with you after 6 weeks, you can. You can do it. If you want to put your storage back under your bed after 6 weeks, you can. But I almost guarantee you will sense the sensation. It feels different. You'll notice you're sleeping deeper. You'll notice you're falling asleep faster. And I often clients, will even joke, I wasn't going to believe you, but I'm now convinced.
Well, yeah, the proof is in the pudding. So do
Hmm.
it, and then, like you said, if they see the difference, they're obviously not going to put it back. But if they're still not sleeping, then but most likely that's not going to happen. But so interesting. I never would have thought of that. But you're right. You're sleeping on your
Hmm.
to-do list. Yeah,
Hmm.
and often people do that because of lack of storage space. But you'll just clean out your closet. What can I
Clean out your
say?
closet. My One of my other favorite tips in closets is to go up, because typically there's one
Hmm.
shelf above the rod, right? And there's extra space. So have some extra shelving put in, or just go vertical and store those off-season things, those boots that you only wear for a couple months of the year, or holiday decorations, right? Place those unneeded things and common things up high. It's great
Right.
space up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Get creative for
Mhm.
sure. Well, other than we've spoken about some of these elements, the earth, the water, so on and so forth, but what about elements like scent? We mentioned this a little bit at the beginning with the
Mm.
spa thing, the sound and lighting. How do they play in creating a home that helps us feel deeply supportive?
Mm. I call it sensory design. And
Mm,
scent is powerful. We've all had those scents in life where we instantly smell it and we're taken back to a certain time in our life, right? Or,
mm,
I have a certain couple recipes of my mother's. If I'm out and about and I smell this scent, right, it reminds me of my childhood, or anything like that. Scent is really powerful. I love to encourage my clients to bring in natural scents. Of course, we want to avoid any chemical scented perfumey heavy candles or things. Opt for a more healthy option. I love to diffuse essential oils. I love to burn a little incense in my home. You can even just open some windows and allow some fresh air to blow. This can be really powerful. um, I recently had a talk with a group, and we were talking about scent branding. This is a
mm.
big thing in some hotels. Certain hotels, you walk in and you smell that beautiful fragrance and you know where you're at. There are certain stores that do that as well. So
Mhm.
why can't we do that to our homes? So I encourage them to think about if they wanted to scent brand their home in some manner, what would that be like? I personally
Right.
love lavender. So you walk in my
Mm.
house and you'll almost always smell lavender. So I know guests are coming. I might diffuse a little extra lavender, or, I just really want to create a peaceful environment for myself and my family. I'll diffuse some extra lavender, or maybe you love a citrus scent. You can diffuse some citrus, and that can be, fresh lemon or grapefruit can be a wonderful way to scent brand your own home.
Mm.
Yeah, so scent is
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah. Um,
And then we have
uh,
lighting.
yes, lighting can really affect your mood. The designer of me, always loves to layer lighting and having the right temperature of lighting. We have those warm bulbs, which are nice and cozy, and I always recommend those. The warm toned lighting versus the cool toned. That I always call it the
Mm.
hospital
Right.
glow, but
Yeah.
it's not very calming and comfortable. And so when we can bring in the warmer lights, layer different lighting, and make sure whatever color temperature you choose, that you repeat that throughout your home. So you don't have
Mm.
one color of a bulb in one location and next to that is a different color, because that just makes our bodies feel off.
Right. Right. And then the last was sound.
Mm, sound. I love to play really quiet, calming music throughout my home, and it's kind of always softly playing. It's kind of like the scent branding. I always have a certain style of music that I like to play, just subtly in the background. But sound affects us so much. I actually talk about these topics in my book, and I talk about this experience where I did a writing workshop years ago. Before design school, I actually went to school for communications, and I did this writing workshop, and in it, the instructor had us writing on certain topics, and she would play some jazz music and see we'd start writing, and then she'd play classical music and we'd continue our
Mm.
writing, and then she'd play something very different, hard rock, and it's amazing to read that and see how the writing shifted following the music. Music has
Mhm.
vibration, has an essence to it. So, of course, be very mindful of the music you're playing. If you're stressed out and anxious, you want something, bring in something peaceful and calming. And so,
Right.
bring in some sound into your home. That could even, it doesn't even have to be music. It could be a sound of birds chirping, or a recorded sound of rain falling.
Yeah. Yeah, water flowing. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. Yeah, we have a sound machine in the bedroom, but it's just sounds. It's not necessarily nature sounds, but it's tones of different, the
perfect.
megahertz. Yeah, because
Perfect.
it's very, very calming. And you fall asleep and you don't even notice it. But it's there
Hmm.
and it's working. Yeah. Yeah, sound is
Yes, it's
all of
working.
those. Yeah, all of those are super important. And the sound is interesting because they use that a lot in spas. They'll use the
Hmm.
sound, whether it's not
Hmm.
music, but just sound, one way or another.
Right.
And again, it's
You know,
to calm the nerves.
hmm yeah, when we can support our body in finding peace and calm, because I always say that if you were driving down the highway going 80 miles an hour and you had to slam on the brakes, it doesn't feel
Mm.
good on your body. It doesn't feel good to your groceries in the back seat, the wind flying, right? It's not a good sensation. And the same with our bodies. We can't go from working and going really fast and having a busy day. We can't expect that we're going to get home and just be able to just drop and relax and drop our shoulders and breathe. We have to support our body and stepping down into that feeling. So add an element here, add an element there, turn down the lights, turn on the peaceful music. And when you can support your body, it feels a lot better than, it's just slamming on the brakes in the car.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you come home, it's that's the last thing you want is loud music, bright lights, and I don't know, some nasty smell. You just like you'd slam the door and walk out. I would. I'd go, okay, I'm going to a hotel. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, you just have to take the extreme to understand, if there are people go, I don't get it, then say, okay, well, let's take the extreme. Let's say you had a very stressful day at work and you came home and, there's loud music playing, maybe of a teenager and the lights were on and, they had some terrible scent and it would just be like, it would be an assault on your being. You're just like, I can't handle this anymore. And I'm sure that's happened. It's
Bingo.
like every
Yes.
everybody out, turn off everything. But yeah, because that's your body saying, no, I can't take this anymore. Too much energy or what, the force. It's invading your life
Mhm.
force. And it's like, no, I'm putting up the
Mhm.
shield now. But
Yes,
absolutely.
and our homes,
Well,
they're supposed to be so calming, and they're supposed to be
yeah.
this comforting, cozy cocoon. I always say to think of your home as less of a container of where you just land in at the end of the day, and think of it as this family member. Think of it as this family member that you can nurture, you can love. I love to buy bouquets of flowers and I gift them. I bring
Mm,
them home and gift them to my home. I'll put them in the center of the home and they're beautiful and they just fills the home with really good energy. And I always recommend too, give your home a name. Like do things to really connect with your home and then it just seems that you can live in harmony with it so much easier when you develop that close connection almost like a friend or a family member.
yes, absolutely. I love flowers. I get them at the market every weekend. So it's just and they're fresh, so it's beautiful. Right now I have big
Mm,
sunflowers there, so and every time I walk past them, I smile because I'm like, "Oh, how are you doing today?"
right.
You know? Yeah, just
Yes, that is
hang
it.
in
I mean,
there.
that you feel it.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
you
I
feel
do.
it.
I mean, and I have some plants inside and it's like, "Okay, having a good day. Yep, looks like you're good. Don't need water
Mhm.
today, so we're good." But yeah, it's just and it's taking care of things. It's like it's another thing that's growing that you're
Mhm.
nurturing, and so there's that element too, especially for women because we are nurturers. And
Yes.
when you see, I used to be
Yes.
terrible with plants, and now I'm good with them, and it gives me joy because it's like, oh look, it's growing. I can't believe it. I didn't
Mhm.
kill it.
Mhm.
So it's really satisfying. Yeah,
But
it's
also
really
plants and
satisfying.
flowers, it's a beautiful way the wood element is a beautiful way to connect with your home through nurturing and bringing this element in. But I think it's just I think everyone should bring in some plants if possible to just have that greenery around you. I think we're living in this space, in this world that is so busy. We go so much, but there's so much technology. There's AI everything. We're being pinged by so many things. There's so much stimulation in our lives. I think we're craving different things. I think we are craving nature more than ever. We're craving grounding, a sense of stability, comfort. I love to watch all the interior design trends and kind of decipher them and explore them from a feng shui point of view. And I'm seeing so many trends following that. We went from crisp whites being so popular in kitchens to now the warm whites we're seeing a lot more of those. And I just can't help but feel that that is more people just craving comfort and calm.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. There's no question about it. We want to go back to our roots. And that's what
Yes.
it's saying. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that being said, I have an interesting question here now about color. So tell us about
Mm.
color and the psychology of color and what are the best colors for a home, office, or for focus and productivity? So there's got to be
Mhm.
different colors that most likely ignite productivity versus calm. Just give us a little insight into because I
Mhm.
know there is a lot of psychology behind color.
I always think color psychology is kind of what led me, was my first steps in really
Mm.
exploring a holistic approach to homes because I loved color and I understood color. I've always been very intuitive, so I could just feel it, right? With colors, and I was always very creative and artistic, so I connected with color very well, and I've enjoyed studying it and exploring color. And we know cool colors are calming, warm colors lift our mood, but it can go so much deeper. I think if you're struggling with something, it can be really interesting to look at your space. When I was struggling after my burnout, I look back and I wasn't sleeping. I was stressed. I couldn't
Mm.
sleep at night. And I think about the room we had at the time, and I had this red headboard. I got this elaborate, gorgeous fabric for a steel, and I made this headboard. I wrapped the wood in some batting, and I made this really great headboard, and it looked fantastic. But I know now the red was not supporting me. I had too much wood element in that space, too much fire. It wasn't supporting me at the time. I needed those calming, peaceful, soothing colors. And so color can be really powerful. I've worked from home for 15 years, and so I've explored a lot with home offices. I've done a lot of consulting on home offices. Started a lot during COVID when people would call and they can't understand why they are so stressed out with work, but yet they're working at the coffee table next to their kids,
Mm.
coloring and wondering why. Um, Really having a devoted space that you can use color to influence your body, influence your thinking. The wood element, I'm sorry, the metal element is, I think every space these days, with how busy we are, every space can benefit from the earth element, and I love some wood element. But in an office, metal is wonderful to bring you focus and precision. If you have a deadline and you're coming up on it and you're getting nervous, make sure you bring in that metal element. So that might be a metal desk lamp. That might be
Mm.
placing something metal or gray or white or pastel in your field of vision. Sometimes I'll even wear specific clothing that will bring in whatever element I'm looking for, right? You'll
Mm.
just see it out of your peripheral vision. So maybe
Mm.
a blouse with a gray stripe on it or a gray, coloring. So offices are really interesting. I've also explored, this is interesting, the color yellow.
Mm.
So yellow is considered an earth element, but it's a little bit of an elevated earth element. It's got a little life, right? We think of yellow as cheerful and joyful, but it is still very grounding. And I've never been a yellow fan, but years ago, we had moved into a new home, and my home office was going to be this specific room and that was painted yellow. I was
Mm.
thinking, well, I don't like yellow, but we'll keep it for now. I'll move the furniture in and then I'll decide the paint color, as we're here for a little bit. Well, I started working and I found I loved yellow. I found I was so productive and was able to really stay on task in that space. So if you are
Wow.
looking for a new color for your office, I'd recommend exploring yellow, like a
Mm.
gentle, delicate yellow.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's energetic.
Mhm.
It's a bright, energetic color. Like you said, a gentle yellow, not something that's glaring and it's just going to
Yes, no
assault
neon.
you. Yeah, no
Yes.
neon. Yeah, right. That'll just scare the heck out of you. It's like, oh my God, I can't handle it. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. No neon. Yeah, because there are so many colors, like gradations of colors these days. But yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, I could see that.
Mhm.
That's great. Well, thank you for giving us some insight and the stories too, because you've seen it work for you and against you with the headboard and then
Mhm.
with the yellow in an office. Well, here's a
Mhm.
question that for those listening who think that feng shui is and woo woo, that they don't believe any of this stuff. What's the most practical or scientific explanation that will change their perspective on all of this conversation?
Mm. It's interesting because there is a side of this work that feels very magical, right? You align some
Mm.
things and you move some things, and life seems to fall into place, and it just feels really magical. But if you think about it, we talked color. Color affects our mood, right? Color puts us in a better mood and not so great mood. Lighting affects how we feel. Lighting affects, our nervous system. If there's that hospital glow I talked about, the cool lighting, it can make us feel really agitated. Think about your furniture arrangement. Just having
Mhm.
a furniture arrangement affects how you interact with one another. If the arrangement doesn't work and the sofa is pulled across to one room and the chair's all on the other side of the room, there's no intimate connection happening, right? And so when we can just observe some of those grounding things, I mean, just having more rounded furniture generally feels
Mm.
a little more peaceful than a lot of sharp corners. When we can wrap our head around what's really happening and step away from the woo view of it, it sounds and it feels, and you see that it's quite grounded.
Right. It's in the seeing and the feeling that, you can
Mhm.
actually see the difference so that it's not woo woo. And you might think, oh, well, that just was happenstance. But then you try something else and it works as well. So, yeah. And why not try
And that's
something
why I
that's
love
supportive?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's why I love journaling, because then you can track and you can write down what
Mm,
kind of
right.
emotions am I having right now? What kind of sensations am I having in my body? What's going on in my life? And then most of my clients, I have them check back in 6 weeks and check in with those same things. How are my emotions? What's going on in my life? And really observe and see, so it can feel scientific. It's a science experiment of 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And one that will improve your life. So try it. It's worth it.
And
6 weeks
why not?
is
What do you
nothing.
have to lose?
Exactly. There it is. What do you have to lose? Nothing. Well, give us a brief look inside your book because I know you're very excited, and I am that you've launched this. So it's Aligned at Home: How Feng Shui and Holistic Design Can Restore Your Energy and Well Being.
Mhm. I believe this work is really the future of design. While it's fun to make things beautiful, really having things support you. And I also think so many younger and younger generations want that. They want to know how these items are going to support me, how they're going to affect my body, the carbon footprint, or what, there's so much that goes into it beyond just making it pretty. And pretty's fun, and I love that, right? That beautiful things lift our energy. So I'm all for that. But I think there's more that we need to explore in the world of design, and that's the future. So I really wrote this book to help people explore those new lenses, right? Explore those new
Mm,
lenses of how they're going to look at their space, and just open their eyes a bit to a different view of their home. Again, less of a container, more of a friend. So the book
mm,
starts out, actually, the first couple chapters are kind of memoir-ish. I share going through my burnout and the difficulty I struggled with that, with my mental health, and how I used this work to help myself. And of course, I wouldn't be able to do what I do now had I not gone through those difficult times. So explain that. And then I give some basics into feng shui, because I remember when I first started this, before I did any certifications, any trainings, I just had a few books. I just snagged a few books. I'd read one. It was interesting, but then I would read the next one and I was really perplexed. And then I'd read another one and I'm thinking, well, this says something very different than the first one. What do I do?
mm,
So I really wanted to clarify how all these different schools or sects have formed over time, just like anything. If you practice yoga, there's so many different forms of yoga. But with everything, the
mhm.
goal is the same, right? The goal in feng shui is to bring harmony and alignment to your environment to then support your life. And so I really enjoyed being able to explain that, because I don't know, maybe daily asked about this. Why does somebody say do this and somebody else says do that? Um, but then I have a lot of information in there of things you can do, because there's two sides. There's so many great tips. You might listen to information you might read, see some posts on social media or wherever, do this or don't do that. And those are great. Those are really fun. You can, I believe, if with intention, you can make huge, incredible shifts. However, there is a time and place to dive deep in your home. You said you had your office done, right? And it's important to know that if you want big adjustments for big moments in your life, we need to look at your specific home, and you need to have someone detail, whoever that is, a feng shui expert, understand your specific place, because the tips are great, but you live in your home, which might be a 2-story. You might have 2 dogs. You might live on a busy street in a city next to a lake, right? Whereas your friend who has a single-story home, no pets, 5 kids, and they live in a condo. So it's important to
Yeah.
look at your individual space. So I dive into a lot about that, and just all kinds of easy to implement tips that you can do
Mm.
quickly this weekend.
Yeah. It's exactly what we need these days, especially with a lot of concrete that is around us. And I say
Mm,
that, because there's so much building going on and there's so much, like you mentioned, the technology and AI and all of that. Yes, it's definitely something that's coming more and more to the forefront because people are looking for answers in any
mm,
way, shape, or form that we can, like you said, bring harmony and alignment, because that's where we grow, is through harmony and
mhm,
alignment. It's not through the static, as I call it, because we're
mm,
assaulted with static all the time. So when you walk in your house, do you want to be attacked with static, or do you want to melt into harmony? I mean, that's
mm.
really a great way to put it. But well,
I love
thank you
that.
so much. Yeah, you're very welcome. I it just popped into my head, but it's a great way to mention the difference in the energy that you want to feel, when it's the same in any office space too. I mean, at corporate, it's there's but people are coming around, which is a good thing, because I have many people on this podcast that not just talk about feng shui but energy and mindset. And as I joked with one of my recent interviews, I said, well, 10 years ago they would have put you away and thought you were a nut because of what you're telling me right now. But but things are changing and science is proving it. So in that regard, AI has been magnificent, because it's all proving, what the ancients knew all this stuff, they just had it in a different language, and we just thought they were
Hmm.
woo woo, or whatever.
Hmm.
Einstein knew all of it as well. And but
Yes.
anyway, yeah, absolutely, we're just catching up. Gee Louise, you think we'd be smarter than that, but here we are. So it's a good thing. So tell everyone, Lisa, where they can best get in touch with you, your contact information, and where to purchase your book.
Yes, my website is
Mm.
purelivingwithlisamorton.com. I'm also on social media at Pure Living with Lisa Morton, and you can snag my book. So I am one of those people. I'm obsessed with getting signed copies of books. Like, I will hunt people
Mm.
down. So I made a page on my website. If you do want a signed copy of my book, I would love to sign it, seal it up with care, and pop it in the mail to you. But you can also over to Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, booksamillion.com, walmart.com. And
Mm.
there are quite a few local shops around me that have it, and so you can snag a copy. I also have a complimentary workbook that I just created. So
Mm.
it has checklists, it has journaling space, it has guides and details things out just a little bit more. And that is also available on Amazon. And then I do have my
Oh.
podcast, Feng Shui Living, and I come out with a new episode every Wednesday. Quick 20-minute episode that you can listen to on your commute and then go home and make some easy tweaks that evening.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that. And we'll have all that information available as well. And because we're here on the Epic Vision Zone, Lisa, I have one last question. If your life were an epic story, what would the title be?
I think it's just a one word, but it's growth.
Mm. I love that. Yeah,
as growth.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That strikes my curiosity because I would wanna know what's
Mm.
inside, right? It's just
Mm.
like growth. Okay, what does that mean?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Well, thank you.
interesting. In
Oh, go ahead.
in my book, I share a little bit about even my childhood. You know, I as a child, I was very intuitive and I was very in touch with nature. And so I think
Mm,
seeing my life morph and shift, even though I was not in this world, I know I'm meant to be here. It's just a matter of growing and evolving and getting
mm,
prepared to be in this area of work.
yeah, finding that finding your calling.
Mhm.
That's and I did in your bio, it said that, having grown up in the farmland, you were much more attuned with your natural
Mhm.
surroundings, and I think that's a big, big help because I grew up in a city, Toronto, which is
Mhm.
big and bustling, but even then, it wasn't as big as it is now, and, we used to have fields at the end of the street where we could run and chase butterflies, and there was a old haunted house that we used to pretend there was somebody living there. But it was, you had the juxtaposition of, the hustle and bustle of the city, but then you had the space where they had these open fields. But now, of course, that's all housing and whatever. I mean, there's no
Mhm.
open space anywhere. We have a big park, but my point being is, as we continue in our societies, we need more of this, and I think also too that's one of the reasons that we're getting more attuned to it. We're getting more
Mhm.
where our antennas are rising and saying, okay, is this the way it's supposed to be? Or is this the way we've made it be? Yeah. So,
Mm.
yeah, interesting.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you again, Lisa, for reminding us that your home isn't just where you live, it's where your energy, your habits, relationships, and your future get shaped every single day. And once again, for information and to connect with Lisa, go to the Epic Vision Zone bio pages where you will find all of her contact and social media information. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath. Look me up at janeapplegath.com and like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Epic Vision Zone. Sending you much love and gratitude. Until next time, stay visionary, stay bold, live epically.